has to be divided up into segments. So
that started to come up in debates around 1850.
I keep going over by like 2 minutes.
And the woman question was the debate about what role women should have in society. Why do you think that it would have become, this is sort of jumping a little bit ahead of where we are in history, but why do you think in 1850 it would become a good time to talk about women's role in society? You can sort of guesstimate if you're not sure.
What's the question?
Wait, what?
What was it about the time around 1850 that would have brought up into question what women's role in society should be?
A war?
A war is about to happen.
World War I?
Oh my
Good.
god.
You look at history, bud.
1815, or World War I started in 1914, buddy.
So not quite.
1850.
What's about to?
What's about to start in the next decade?
The Civil War.
The Civil War. What was the Civil War over?
Basically.
It's over a lot more, but
Yeah. Slavery.
the catalyst is slavery. So how many? Slavery.
Because women in their eyes were being seen as slaves to men.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
What else is happening, more specifically in England in 1850? There's a really big one. Why are we concerned about women and their role in society?
Women's suffrage? Oh, Queen Victoria.
Yes, Queen Victoria. There we go. There's a woman in charge of the whole country.
That's not very good.
It's pretty good.
That's not very good. Is that what you said?
And the last time there was a woman in charge where her husband was not the king was which queen?
Queen Elizabeth.
Yes, Queen Elizabeth. Which was, let's go with 300 years before. So they are wondering, what does it mean if we have a woman in charge of our whole country? You also mentioned the Industrial Revolution. How would that have to do with what women's role in society?
They're gonna have to work.
Right, women are going to have to work. Uh-oh. I thought women just did flower gardens all day long. What do you mean they have to work? Alright, so all of these things happening in the world are going to start to raise the question, what kind of role should women have in society, and can we let this role change from what it traditionally has been? I'm going to sort of go off into a tangent on Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights is published in 1847 by Emily Bronte. However, Emily Bronte, being an unmarried single woman, was not allowed to publish the book under the name Emily Bronte. So the book was published under the name Elias Bell.
I didn't know that she wrote it.
Because her sisters also published things, and her sister, she paid for part of the publication because it was considered so racy a novel that they wouldn't publish it unless she paid for it to be published. So she publishes under Elias Bell. She has two sisters, Anne and Charlotte, who also publish novels. Charlotte publishes Jane Eyre, which is ringing any bells? Yeah. Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights are probably the two most famous works by the Bronte sisters. Anne's books aren't really all that popular. I'm trying to think. It's nothing you would have even ever heard of. So those two are the big ones, and they all publish under pseudonyms. And they're not published under their real names until they're all dead. So, being from 1847, this is also going to deal with the question of women in society, but it's going to go about it in a different way because Bronte's father was a pastor, and he was a little crazy, and he didn't let them ever get married. None of them ever got married. None of them had any kids, and he made them all live in the parsonage, which is the house owned by the church. And it was out in the country like 10 miles away from the nearest neighbor, and he wouldn't really let them go anywhere. So they lived in the house by themselves in the middle of the field with no one else around them.
Why wouldn't he want to do it?
He didn't want them to be corrupted by society. So he didn't let them have any
Probably like
society.
sexually awkward.
Right. So that is going to play a huge part in the novel because it's going to take place in a house in the middle of the field where there's not any neighbors really close. All right, that's a big issue that's going to come up. All right. Okay, let's look at our last poem, Changing Gears. And this is on 778. And this is by A.E. Housman. It's not going to deal with the woman question, so we can come back to this later. This is To an Athlete Dying Young. Does somebody want to read? Or before we read, do you want to talk about the athletes you picked
No.
that are your favorite athletes?
Yeah, so,
Briefly?
yeah.
Who are your favorite athletes and why?
Let's go around the room, everybody.
Gray, just go.
Yeah.
Cody Miller.
Yeah.
Sean White.
Gray, go.
I said mine.
What?
Cody Miller.
Why,
No.
Gray?
Why? Yeah, he kicks butt.
Okay.
Yes, and that's it.
TJ Schiller, because he's amazing and he kicks Canadians' butts.
What sport does he play?
He's a
Curling.
freestyle skier.
Oh,
Yeah, the American curling team.
the American
Yeah,
curling
curling.
team.
Jack picks Larry.
And then Norwegian curling team.
Apollo.
Oh yeah, because of the pants. Okay.
Danny Tingle. He's a professional bowler.
Any other favorite athletes? They don't necessarily have to be in the Olympics right now if you want to.
TJ Schiller.
Which one was the one with all the
Okay.
hot girls?
Chad Reed, because he's Australian.
That's why
It's
you
like
like him?
Slovakia. Something like that.
Yeah,
It might have been Russia.
He's Chad Reed.
Maybe Sweden. It might have been Sweden.
That's what I was thinking.
Because he's Australian.
He's Australian.
Who's the best athlete of all time?
The Swiss.
Tiger Woods.
This is a country, not a person.
Mike Schmidt.
Usain Bolt.
Mike Schmidt.
Why?
He's fast.
He's
The
fast.
best
Yeah.
athlete of all
He's
time.
great.
Uh-huh.
Bolts.
That's
Why
a
is Tiger
very
Woods the best athlete
hard
of all time?
question.
Okay.
Actually, it's really good.
Because he's good at golf.
He was.
Yeah,
But
no,
he's
he-
ruined
I
his
know,
life.
but he
Probably
really
isn't
was good at
practicing.
golf.
Whoever that, I
sure he'll
can't
be
pronounce
good.
his last name, but his
I
name
know.
is
Dexter.
Oh no?
Plays public
Yeah,
service.
whatever.
Yeah. that's it.
Okay.
You can't.
I'm sort of surprised that nobody said like Michael Jordan.
None of us really like
Yeah.
No, he's too old.
But I mean, like the best athlete of all time.
Mike
you pick
Schmidt.
someone like contemporary.
Mike
Well, it
Schmidt.
depends on like what you're talking about. Like the best athlete. Like,
Well,
all
you
time.
know, you
There's,
gotta
like,
be the
there's, like,
best
different ones. There's
athlete
like one
of all
like
time
simpler.
in a
So
sport
you
that
just say
matters.
bowling. I mean, you know.
No, I mean like all around best athletic person ever. Like
Mike
Muhammad
Schmidt.
Ali,
Well, too.
Usain Bolt.
Ride the line.
Usain Bolt.
Yeah, he's
What?
really athletic.
That's an
You
opinion.
really like football.
Can he swim?
Yeah, he probably can. Chad Ochocinco.
His last name Ocho Cinco. That's not even how you say it in Spanish. It should be Ochenda Cinco if you even want
I
to be
still think it's pretty
accurate.
funny. It's still pretty
Right,
funny.
right.
I would. It would be really, really fun if they changed his number.
I think that would be hilarious. I hope the man
Would he
gets
change
traded
his
and his
name?
number becomes like 17 or something like ridiculously not
Chad,
close
it's
to
number
85.
17.
He's bad.
Anyway,
Shut up, he's good.
why do we admire athletes?